All right, guys. Well, here we go once again. It's been a little while here. I suppose it feels like it's been a little while, at least after starting up a new save. We're against Warrington here. We're at home at Hallam now. I'll tell you, I've looked at pictures of what the Hallam stadium or field looks like. Sandygate, I think it's called. It doesn't look anything like this. So much for the realism of a football manager. But we'll see what happens. It should be fun. Apologies for this. The game doesn't realize that I know what I'm doing. Actually, I'm not so sure that I actually know what I'm doing, so maybe I should read what it has to say. And we have a bunch of players here together on the pitch who have very rarely ever played against each other or played with each other. So we'll see how this goes. We are definitely not a squad that should do anything positive here in this match, so we'll see what happens. We're not expected to do much at all. Here is Chu, one of our men in the back, over to Horan, back to Chu. Lumps is forward looking for Seong and can't find him. Sarpong now can't get on top of that one, but is headed back to Cunningham. And he's knocked that one forward for Boyce, who's behind the defense, and he takes a wild shot, which is up and above everybody's head. So, hey, we had a shot on goal, kind of, within the first 3 minutes of the match. That's not too bad, considering how poorly this team's supposed to do. We are chances are that we're going to finish in dead last, which is what the board doesn't want us to do. That's the only thing they're asking, that we don't finish in last place. So if we can stay out of last place in the league, we'll be okay. Chu does a good job going back to get that over to Sarpong, who has a really bad first touch and gives up possession. But it doesn't matter in the end, because their attack ends up going over everybody's head. So it ends up working out for us in the end here. Anyway, Cunningham over to our old man there in the back. Seong now with it. Forward, does a good job, ends up tripping over his own shoelaces. I'm not sure that he was fouled at all there. And Cunningham goes back to get that over to Danielle Witz. A lot of these guys, by the way, are guys like Cunningham that we brought in on a free. Pudil with it here over to Chu, up to Horan, and he's going to be called for offside. It's kind of rare with this type of tactic that you get somebody who's called for offside, but it happened right there. So it can happen. It's definitely not a perfect win everything type tactic. Chu ends up heading that one out, and that's going to be a corner for them. I suppose that was a positive thing for us. I mean, it's a little bit better than having them score, but I don't know about that. Chu heads this one again. He's winning everything in the air back then. Chu is an 18-year-old that we got again on a free. I'm not quite sure where he is from originally, but somewhere in England. And it ends up being Boyce who wins this in the back over to Chu again. And he lumps this one forward to nobody in particular. So that was one of those things, if you'll recall, in earlier saves that we tried to fix, where we tried to stop guys from just lumping the ball aimlessly forward. And here we're fortunately not harmed by that too much. Daniel Woods ends up grabbing that one. Poodle up for Cunningham, and that was close. Wow, that was a shot on goal. So we do have a shot on goal 20 minutes in. Seong ends up winning this and then loses it right away. He's looked pretty bad out there so far today. And then he wins it back. Hey, that wasn't bad. So everybody's doing something that's at least somewhat positive. Masters ends up heading that over to Cunningham, who knocks this forward for Badhawi. Badhawi back to Cunningham. He's called for offside. I'm not quite sure about the validity of that call, but whatever. Boyce with this over to Chu. Now, we've done actually pretty well in the lead-up matches. You know, we keep scoring goals, which is the nice thing. We haven't won all of them, but we won a number. And so we've shown that we can score, and we've shown that we can play. It's just that the competition was probably not up to the level of Warrington. And Chu ends up heading this one out and over and up for another corner. So we are able to live and see another day here. It's going to be McCreth here taking this corner for Warrington. Then Danielle Witz ends up jumping up and grabbing that one. So no harm done. Pudil now with the free kick. Forward looking for, I'm not sure who that was, Cunningham maybe. There was a lot of players there sort of in the middle. So he kind of all got lost in the mix. And, well, let's see if we can get this ball off of them again. That was pretty poorly done by whoever was out there. And it's going to be De Giolamo who ends up winning that. And then Seong is called for the push. And so this is going to be another free kick for them. And Danielowitz ends up grabbing this one out of the air, and so it ends up working in the end. No goal given up, and we're about half hour into this match. We haven't really looked that much like scoring, but we also haven't been totally embarrassed here, and that's the key. As long as you're not embarrassed, Cunningham ends up heading this one out for another corner. So, I mean, we're doing okay. We're doing a pretty good job. And let's see what happens here now. It's going to be McCreth taking this one up and over, and Seong ends up winning it. And so he ends up running up with it, and then it's foul. That's a pretty cynical foul by Buckley, and I'm surprised there was no card that was given on that occasion. This is a lump forward for Horan, but he's not quite fast enough to go over and grab it. We do win in the back, though. Cunningham does a pretty good job, and they're going to call Buckley offside, which is a ridiculous call. I guess that's a lower level call. I mean, the ball wasn't even played forward. I'm not sure where that call came from. Maybe it was something that happened before. I don't know. De Girolamo ends up heading that one out again. He's one of our older players who has somehow managed to stay on the squad despite my rounds of cuts. And so we're kind of looking to him for leadership to some extent. He's our vice captain. And that was Badhawi who grabbed that one and kicked it out as far as he could, which was, again, positive. Horan now back to Chu, over to De Girolamo, over to Horan. Horan with it, and that's lumped up for Masters over to Pudil. And that's going to be out for a corner. So this is going to be the first time that we take a look here at our corner technique. Now, the corner system that I set up really isn't much. It's basically the same that we've had before, and our guys aren't very tall, as you can see there. So we don't have any of that sort of like guaranteed goal corner stuff going on. Horan with this, looking for a De Girolamo, and he heads it the right way. Masters lumps this for Horan and doesn't quite get it to him, and ends up with Masters. Again, this is like watching, you ever watch, I don't know, like 12 or 13-year-old kids playing football? If you have, then you know what this is like. That's exactly what this looks like. We're just sort of like lumping the ball up and back and up and back, and people are kind of running all over the place, and then somebody gets close, and then they hit it over everyone's head, try to kill it. And that's what's happened so far in this match. This has been pretty ugly. And Badhawi over to Cunningham, to Sarapong, to Seong, back to Cunningham. So we have managed to get the ball again, and we're looking pretty good in terms of passing and in terms of cohesion. Seong with this, and he's got a guy, doesn't see him. Cunningham over to Sarapong, over to Masters, to Boyce, back to Sarapong, and his shot, which is foolishly taken, ends up just hammering off the defender. But Sarapong goes back and wins it in the back again, over to Badhawi. So Sarapong has made a bunch of mistakes, but he keeps doing well with it, and that's the end of the half. So looks like a bunch of nothing, but actually we look pretty good out there. I'm not too upset about that at all. We have been the better team, and I'm surprised to say that. We might end up scoring and winning. It could happen. Who knows? Cunningham with this. Everybody, of course, is tired. We had them in a friendly a week before this, and that's probably why they're looking a little bit under the, little bit tired, a little bit in need of a rest, and we'll see who we end up taking out here once the time comes. Badhawi does win that. Masters now over to Horan, back to Chu. Chu forward for Horan. Good job. Horan with this, up and over to Boyce, and I tell you, if he had headed that one right, that would have been a goal. That ends up going over everybody's head, and look at this. We have our first clear-cut chance replay of the new save and of the new season. So it was Horan with this here. Did a very good job, and Boyce didn't quite know what he was doing with that. If he pulls that one down, he has basically a clear path to goal. Nobody guarding him, nobody in front of him. Looks like Mac Masters is probably going to be the first one to come out, and we'll probably give him a couple of minutes. Cunningham wins that over to Chu, and he kind of gives up the ball and then sticks his foot out as if to say, hey, excuse me, that's mine. And, of course, it doesn't work. Let's see what we can do here. And there is the first goal. Buckley Ricketts scores that for Warrington, but I think he's going to be called for offside. Are they actually going to go to VAR? I guess we do have VAR down here in the fifth Super League, and they are going to allow that, unfortunately. That's kind of unfortunate for us. We'll take another look here at that pass. Yeah, I think he was onside. It's pretty close either way you look at it. So Buckley Ricketts ends up scoring the first goal of the match. It's been a pretty drab match so far, so it's probably good that they get something in. And yeah, he was onside. He just wasn't being marked. And that's part of the problem that we have, is a little bit of a our lack of men in the back is kind of what hurts us, as well as the fact that we're so offensive minded. So we do leave ourselves open in the back, and we kind of do so deliberately in hopes of scoring. And we haven't had any scoring so far. So it's going to be an interesting season. We might need to give ourselves at least a little bit in the back moving forward. I don't know. Masters does win this one, though, over to Boyce. I was about to take Masters off, and Boyce goes and takes a shot from range. And now we can take Masters off. So that's what we're going to do here. We'll put Sinclair on for him, and then I think Chu, not Chu, it's going to be Degiro Amlo is going to come off. We'll put Wiley on for him and see what we can do from there. So 1-0 is all. Only behind by a goal. We can make that up, maybe. Poodle gets his back from Haran, passes it back to him. There's a shot that goes off of his own teammate, and then Chu goes back in the back to rescue that, to Cunningham, to Wiley, up to Seong. Seong with it. Over, and he's called for offside. That was another very, very suspicious call. I'm not quite sure how valid that call was either. So anyway, called for offside. There's no replay. There's nothing to worry about. There's no reason to argue about it, I suppose. Wiley wins this in the back to Sarpong, over to Cunningham. Lumps this forward looking for Seong, and he's going to win the race. Seong back to Badhawi, and he's dispossessed, gets it back again, knocks this one forward, and it's out for a corner. So we have another chance at a corner, and let's see what the corner technique will do this time. We're going to go what looks like near post, and here it comes. And the corner kick is really poorly taken, not even close to anybody. So that didn't work. Let's see what we can do now. Sinclair wins this over to Boyce. Boyce lumps this forward for Seong, who sees it finally in the end, and then knocks it back to Boyce, and he's called for offside. And this is another one of those strange calls. I just don't see why he's being called for offside so many times up there, but so it is. Boyce wins this back. There's Haran, who's behind the defense, and he gives up the ball. He's completely overrun, so it doesn't work so well. Pudil now to Sinclair, back to Pudil. Forward for Sepong to Seong, and he takes so long to tee up that shot that they're easily able to recover and knock that one out for a corner. Pudil here with this again, looking far post, and that ends up going out for a throw. So that ends up being a whole bunch of nothing for us. Pudil throws over to Haran, knocks that back for Chu. Chu forward for Boyce, who must be offside there. Yeah, he was offside. And so that's the end of that. We got about 20 minutes here left of this match. We're going to have to make, I think, a couple of further changes. Fortunately, we are not giving up a goal that easily. And I thought that Sinclair had gotten a foot onto that one before that one went flying out of bounds, but apparently I saw wrong. We're going to let Peter Kavanagh come on, and then we're going to also let Chris, let's see, here we go. Thomas Edwards is going to come on there to make his debut for us. And we'll see what we can do. As you can see there, we don't have a whole lot of players on the squad, and we'll talk about the reasons for that in this afternoon's video. There are still some great save by Danielowitz, and that was a little bit dangerous. There's still some weird bugs with Football Manager when it comes to playing with teams that are semi-pro like this, so we'll take another look at that later on. Pudil here with the free kick, looking for Kavanagh, can't quite find him, and then he wins it back here in the end. Back to Badhawi, who lumps this forward looking for Haran, and just doesn't quite get to him. This ends up back with Sinclair, who lumps this forward looking for Boyce, over to Seong, and that was really, really close, but Boyce was called once again for being offside, and it's another one of those strange calls where I think that he was probably onside. Doesn't matter in the end, it would have been saved. Chu here with the header after the free kick, and that ends up going over everyone's head, so it doesn't quite work out all that well. And we'll see what happens next. Calvin over to Boyce, looking for Seong, can't find him, and this is back to Chu. Chu with this over to Pudil. Pudil forward, looking for Haran, and it doesn't quite find its way to him. And Sinclair very close to intercepting that one, doesn't do a good job, but Edwards does, and his pass forward ends up going straight to the defender, so that didn't work out so well, did it? Kavanagh loses this over to Leach. This is pretty bad, but fortunately he takes a shot from far out that ends up doing absolutely nothing. And this is the sort of season it's going to be. Well, if we end up, though, with a 1-0 loss here, it's sort of a moral victory for us because, again, we didn't get totally blown away, despite the fact that we are playing with a very offensive mentality. Boyce was called for offside again. I don't think that it was even close to the right call. Kavanagh here with this over to Danielowitz. Back to it's going to be Badhawi, and then forward looking again for Boyce, and can't quite get it to him. That ends up being won easily by Warrington in the back. Wiley ends up winning that one, and Buckley's call this time for being offside. And again, it's a real ticky-tacky kind of offside call. We got kind of a strange referee here, Horan, with this, and he just takes a shot, and that does absolutely nothing. So we're still working on trying to get together as one. It's going to be Chu who wins this over to Sinclair. Sinclair forward for Seong. Where did he come from? And he shoots and scores, and we've done it. Kelvin Seong with his first goal on his debut, and that makes us a 1-1 draw, and we might get a point out of this. Can you believe that? We get a point out of this match with this team that has absolutely no reputation and players who look like they don't know what they're doing. I don't know where Seong came from, but he came up there and he grabbed the ball and just pumped that one through, and he scored. And so far, so good. How about that? And we're seeing a lot of glitching going on here now, and let's see if we can fix this. Yep. That didn't quite work. Well, let's see if we can figure out what's going on. We may need to change something here, so let's see if we can change the graphic quality maybe a little bit here and see if that'll help us out. Maybe not. All right, I'm going to pause this for a second. We'll see if we can figure out what's going on. Oh, all right. Well, there you go. I had to change from comprehensive highlights back to key highlights. We didn't have any highlights afterwards. It kind of ran to the end as quickly as possible, but we've wound up with the 1-1 draw. That's kind of a really odd bug. I'll see if I can figure out what's going on with that. Anyway, Kelvin Seong ends up being sort of our man of the match. We had a better XG than they did, which is surprising. At 50% of the possession, which is also not too bad. And yeah, I'd say you didn't really miss too much there at the very end. So final score again, 1-1, and we'll see what we need to do here to solve that bug that we came across. Little details, but good start to the season. Talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.